What if I told you it wasn't magic? What if it wasn't even really them doing the choosing? What if there was a secret algorithm working behind the scenes of your favorite dating app, actively pulling the strings of their dating life and probably yours too? Hey everyone, I'm Leo. I'm 30 and I work as a UX designer here in Austin. Basically, my job is to understand how people use apps and to design interfaces that feel intuitive and honestly, sometimes a little persuasive. It was a Tuesday night and I was doing the thing I told myself I wouldn't do anymore, scrolling through Instagram, and there she was, my ex, Maya, in a photo with a new guy. Again. This was, what, the third one in 4 months? The algorithm in its infinite wisdom had decided I needed to see this. And maybe I did. Because this time I wasn't just feeling a pang of jealousy, I was feeling a deep, unsettling sense of recognition. The guy looked familiar. Not like someone I knew, but like someone she knew. He had the same scruffy beard, the same warning leather jacket, the same vibe of a guy who probably played in a band you'd never heard of, but should definitely check out. He was a carbon copy of the guy she was with 2 months ago, and the guy before that. It was like she was dating the same person, just with slightly different album taste. Let me rewind. Maya and I were together for almost 2 years. We met the old-fashioned way, through friends at a concert. It was real, it was messy, it was human. Our breakup was pretty standard, growing apart, different life goals, you know the drill. It hurt, but it made sense. What didn't make sense was what happened next. It was like she stepped onto a dating app conveyor belt that only produced one very specific type of man. At first I thought, okay, she has a type, cool. But this was different. This wasn't a type, this was a factory setting. It felt less like she was choosing these guys, and more like they were being delivered to her doorstep by some unseen digital force. Because I'm a UX designer, and my job is to understand how people interact with technology. I build the interfaces that are supposed to feel intuitive, helpful. But staring at that photo, a cold knot tightened in my stomach. This wasn't helpful. This was programmed, and I needed to know why. What was in it for the app to keep her in this perfectly curated, endlessly repeating loop? The hook wasn't just the weirdness of it, it was the timing. Every new guy appeared with a clockwork regularity that felt inhuman. Just long enough for a short, intense fling to fizzle out, and then poof, a new, slightly shaded version would appear in her tagged photos. It was too clean, too efficient. My brain, trained to see patterns and user flows, started screaming that this was a feature, not a bug. I realized then that my ex wasn't just moving on. She was stuck in a system designed to keep her swiping, matching, and, most importantly, coming back. And I was going to tear that system apart to see how it worked. So I put on my digital detective hat. This wasn't about stalking my ex, it was about reverse engineering the black box that was manipulating her. I started with what I knew. Maya was heartbroken after our split. She told a mutual friend she was just looking for something easy, no drama. She wanted a distraction, a confidence boost. And she went to the apps to get it. I knew from my work that every app has one primary KPI, engagement. Time spent in the app, number of swipes, messages sent. They don't get paid when you find a soulmate. They get paid when you're glued to the screen. I dug into the research, connecting the dots between public patents and insider testimonials. That's when I found the concept of the rebound loop. It's not an official term, but it's a clear behavioral pattern the algorithm encourages. Here's how it works. When the system detects a user is newly single, based on profile changes, messaging lulls, or even stating they're new here, it doesn't send them their perfect future partner. Oh no, that would be bad for business. If you find the one too fast, you delete the app. Instead, it identifies what's safe and easy for that user based on their immediate post-breakup behavior. For Maya, that meant guys who were the opposite of me. I'm a bit more polished, I guess, corporate. The algorithm saw her swiping relentlessly on the casual creative type and said, oh, you want that? I have an endless supply. It fed her a curated harem of low-risk, high-reward matches. These were guys who were also probably just looking for something casual, who presented a fun, exciting, no-strings-attached version of themselves. The app created a perfect, closed ecosystem for short-term flings. Every match was a quick hit of dopamine, a validation that she was desirable. Every short-lived fling that ended not with a dramatic fight, but with a quiet fizzle, left her feeling slightly empty, pushing her right back to the app for the next hit. The algorithm learned her vulnerability and monetized it. It wasn't helping her heal or find love, it was making sure her healing process was long, profitable, and entirely contained within its platform. She wasn't a user, she was a product, and her heartbreak was the raw material. Seeing the mechanics laid bare was one thing. Seeing the human cost was another. It all clicked into place one night when I ran into Maya at a coffee shop. She looked tired. The spark I remembered was dulled. We made awkward small talk, and eventually I cautiously mentioned I'd seen she was dating. Her response shattered me. Yeah, she said, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world. It all feels the same. It's like I'm dating a bunch of slightly different versions of the same guy. It's fun for a minute and then nothing. It's exhausting. There it was. The proof wasn't in my research, it was in her exhausted eyes. The algorithm had been so successful in giving her exactly what it thought she wanted that it had completely robbed her of any sense of genuine discovery or connection. It had narrowed her world to a single, repetitive archetype, effectively blinding her to anyone who fell outside that very specific data point. She was trapped in a filter bubble of her own post-breakup preferences, and the walls were getting higher every day. The app had identified her type, not as a preference, but as a prison. The most sinister part? The system is designed to make you blame yourself. Maya didn't think, this app is funneling me into a dead-end pattern. She thought, what's wrong with me? Why can't I feel a connection with anyone? She was caught in a cycle where the app provided the drug, the matches, and also profited from the withdrawal, the loneliness that drove her back to swipe. It was a perfectly engineered, self-perpetuating machine. Her value to the platform was at its peak when she was sad, lonely, and seeking validation, and the algorithm ensured she stayed in that state for as long as possible. It wasn't just showing her toys, it was actively shaping her perception of what dating could be, limiting her options to maximize its own metrics. She was living in a curated reality and she had no idea the walls were even there. So what's the takeaway? Do we all just delete the apps and become hermits? Maybe for some, but for most of us, that's not realistic. The solution isn't to abandon the game, it's to learn the rules so well that you can play it on your own terms. This isn't about beating the algorithm, it's not refusing to be its pawn. The first and most powerful step is awareness. Just knowing that a rebound loop exists changes everything. Now, when you see a feed full of identical people, you can recognize the pattern and consciously break out of it. How do you do that? You have to actively retrain the algorithm. Stop passive, mindless swiping. That's giving the machine low-quality data. Instead, be intentional. If you notice you're in a loop, start swiping left on the type it keeps showing you and deliberately right on people who look different. Search for specific hobbies or keywords outside your usual interests. You need to scream at the algorithm with your actions. I am not my breakup. Show me more. And most importantly, you have to set hard boundaries for yourself. Give the app 15 minutes a day, max. When you match, move to a real conversation quickly. The app wants you pen-paling for weeks. You need to prioritize an actual in-person vibe, ASAP. My journey into my ex's dating life wasn't about her. It was a wake-up call for all of us. These apps are powerful tools, but they are tools without morals. Their goal is not your happiness, it's your attention. Understanding that changes you from a passive product into a conscious user. My story is a cautionary tale, but it doesn't have to be yours. True connection is messy, unpredictable, and doesn't always fit a data pattern. It's found not in the endless hypnotic scroll, but in the courageous decision to look up from the screen and take a real human chance on someone the algorithm never would have chosen for you. The power was never in the code. It was always in you. So that's what I found. It's a lot to process, I know. If this video resonated with you, if it made you look at your own screen a little differently, then do me a favor. Hit that like button. It tells the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm this time, that this is the kind of content that matters. Subscribe to the channel. We're just getting started pulling back the curtain on the hidden systems shaping our lives. And most importantly, share this with a friend. Send it to someone who's stuck in a swipe cycle or who just went through a tough breakup. Because the biggest way to break a manipulative system is with a little shared awareness. At the end of the day, remember, the goal isn't to hate the technology, it's to understand it, so we can use it as a tool, not be used by it as a product. Your love life is worth more than their engagement metrics. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.